it's certain things that we focus on, and I seen what he was focused on. He was telling them to go in the portal, and it was only for the weak. He's talking to the weak. He wasn't talking to just anybody.
What's going on, everybody? Listen, I need to up on this conversation, and I call it the Sideline Conversation, that we're going to be talking about Deion Sanders. And I just wanted to bring on some guests today to just talk about, the conversation that's going on with Deion Sanders going to Colorado, leaving Jackson State University, JSU. He's been coaching there for about 3 years, and he brought great success to this amazing organization, the football team in Mississippi. So I wanted to bring some amazing people that's going to really help share their perspective on this whole conversation with Deion Sanders. I got Jay Freeman, I got Nathan Allen, I got Commissioner Eddie. And let me tell you, get ready for this conversation because they're bringing it home as we talk about Deion Sanders. Because, you hear everybody on the internet, it's going viral, or, Deion's a sellout, Deion this, Deion that. But I have a different perspective about Deion Sanders. I have a different perspective about his success. I have a different perspective about his decision going to Colorado. But I didn't want to just share my thoughts. I wanted to bring a collective group together to really share their thoughts about this on the Sideline Conversation. So let me go ahead and welcome Nathan Allen, Commissioner Eddie, and the one and only Jay Freeman. What's up, everybody?
What's going on, man?
I'm good. I'm doing good. That's Jay Freeman. Jay, let everybody know what's up. Where you from? Where you communicating from?
Absolutely. I am from I'm originally from Raleigh, Durham, North Carolina, but I reside in Greensboro, North Carolina now, what have you.
And let's go into, they are a head football coach for the Central Florida Lions right here in Orlando, Florida. We have the one and only. Introduce yourself, starting with the one with the hat, Central Florida hat. Let's go.
What's going on, Nathan Allen? One of the head coaches for the Central Florida Lions, also the football coordinator for the Central Florida Lions. This is a second-year program. We've been bringing up to three teams up to the championship. We had just one of our teams made it to the state champion, so we're moving forward, getting better by the year.
And who's next to you, Nate?
It's my friend Eddie Brinkley. He's actually the commissioner for the Central Florida Lions and one of my assistant coaches for the 12U for the Central Florida Lions. Man, great guy. Know what he's doing. Know what he's talking about. I let him talk a little bit more about himself.
Yeah. Go ahead, Eddie. They pitched it over to you.
I was gonna let you have it all, man. It's a great job. Well, yes, my name is Eddie Brinkley. I am the commissioner for the Central Florida Lions. Proud to be a part of a great organization, great board, great backing. Just that foundation of having the Lord behind us, man, doing what we're doing, man, impacting lives. Just all those great things, man. And you couldn't ask for a better organization, man, than what we working with over here. And then, of course, having one of the, the church like the Kingdom Church as our covering has also been great. We thank Pastor David Jock for his for being there for us and supporting us through it all. And man, I tell you, it's just always a awesome thing to do when you can always give back to your community and be a part of it and be in the lives of these young men and young women and instilling great values into them. So that's pretty much it from me. I'm just hanging out. That's all. I'm just hanging out, get into this conversation about old prime time.
Prime time.
Yeah,
I'm telling you, that's a conversation. It's probably going to be a conversation for the next 3 months, I believe, until probably the football season starts next year. But that's the reason why, I wanted you all to join this conversation today, the Sideline Conversation, really talking about the things that, people are, talking about for Deion Sanders as a sellout or his intentions were in the wrong place. Jay, I read, a friend of mine's, Will Morris, tagged me to your post because he heard me talking about the situation last night as far as Deion Sanders. And Nate, you guys are coaches. You guys are a part of an organization that's been in the building stage for the last 3 years, 4 years probably, right? How long you guys been in the building?
Lions 2 years.
Well, 2 years. So you already accomplished from uniforms to creating the organization to raising funds, and then also state championships. I mean, so you guys understand what it means to build, and I felt it was right for you all to be a part of this conversation so we can really talk about Deion Sanders, because here's where my thoughts with Deion Sanders. Coach Primetime. He's invested a lot within the 3 years. And I think sometimes we in the Black community, we don't really observe the work and the labor that individual person puts in the community to establish the return that we've seen within the 3 years. Because normally it takes people 5-10 years to even see the change impact where they're submitted to. But Deion Sanders within the 3 years have maximized his time to not just raise boys to men, but men to gentlemen, and helping them from an educational standpoint to receive a degree that their parents actually committed to, of allowing their children to go to that school to do what they desire for them to do. So I want to just jump into this conversation. Jay, I read your post. What led you to writing your post in that fashion? Because it struck a positive chord in my heart, and it brought joy to see that there are others out there celebrating Deion Sanders through this process of him transitioning over to Colorado. What made you write that, Jay?
Man, really what truthfully led me to do it, because truthfully, I'm on vocal rest. So I'm technically, I'm not supposed to be on video, but I was like, man, I gotta express my feelings on this, because one, people started asking me, right? They started inboxing me and asking me, okay, what's your thoughts on this and everything? And then I saw all of the negativity from our community on Facebook. And I'm like, this is crazy, man. This dude, especially from other men, right? How in the world are you going to hate on another man for making the best decision for him and his family? You know what I mean? It's just crazy to me. And it's not like Deion made promises and didn't fulfill those promises. When you look back on the press conference, the initial press conferences that he had at JSU, everything that he said in those press conferences, guess what? He did.
Right.
And then he has the character and integrity to say, you know what? I still got unfinished business because we got to go win this bowl game.
Come on. Because a lot of coaches would have just left.
They would have just left.
Like, the assistant coach could handle the rest. You know what I mean? But Deion Sanders said it in the press. I still got unfinished business.
Unfinished business. And how can there's no way in the world that you can listen to all of the press conferences and meetings that Deion has had just since he accepted that job offer and not feel this man's heart, man. It drives me crazy that our people are the most they're the most hypocritical, if you will, when it comes to things like this, right? This man, I had an individual tell me that Deion did nothing for HBCUs. That HBCU's culture was built 100 years ago. I said, first of all, let's realize the context of what you're saying. Yes, we know we have a great and prestigious culture of HBCUs as Black Americans. We understand that. However, we're talking about football and sports. We're not talking about the overall culture of HBCUs. Right. And so just like people were talking about, well, I feel sorry for the kids and they're so hurt and all of this. And I brought up the point on that post that this happens all the time, right? This happens all the time. Whether Deion stayed for 2 or 3 years or whether he stayed for 20 years, guess what? Those kids were going to still be hurt. So my question is, what is going to satisfy your qualifications for him having done the job?
Because here's the reality. Deion Sanders went into a place that did not have a system.
Nope. No system.
And he created the primetime system. And now with this system, they can leverage off whatever he was able to establish at that organization.
Absolutely.
And I think that's where if you don't know the business to football, if you don't know the business of promotion and elevation, then you're going to lack the understanding of what it means to really have I call it a purposeful growth.
Right.
Because he was in purpose and he was doing purpose. Now it's time for him to shift into a different purpose that's going to open more doors and allow us to leverage more.
Absolutely. And I think that's what people miss. It's, I had an individual on one of the posts, I think on that same post, was talking about, well, you can't say that God said that this was your calling, and then 3 years later you saying that another. I was like, hold on, are you telling me God can't move in 3 years?
but not even that though, because if they read scripture and they understood scripture, a lot of the things God had Moses do didn't make sense to the average person.
It did not make sense.
Did not make sense because
and watch this. Even what Moses was called to do about leading the people to the promised land, he never got to experience.
Come on.
It was Joshua that led him. That finished the assignment. So one individual on one of the posts, he made a great point. He said, Deion has done what he was supposed to do. Now it's next man up. But all this time that Deion has been making this difference at JSU, what are these other HBCU coaches been doing? They've been fighting against him. Instead of saying, you know what, this is the blueprint. Deion, show us how you did it, and so we can replicate that at our own schools.
Right. And I think, I'm gonna pass this over to Commissioner Eddie and Nate, because you guys have built this organization, the Central Florida Lions, the football team, literally this program from ground up, with some amazing other dream teamers and other partners. When you look at this situation with Deion, how do you all view this from a coach standpoint and from just the organization itself?
Well, you said it first when you said Deion got to JSU and there was nothing there in place as far as a plan and a vision. And so prior to him getting there, you saw what JSU was, especially as a football team. So that means he had a vision and he had a plan. He worked that plan, and you're seeing the results of what that may be. Mm-hmm. And even though Deion left JSU going on to Colorado, the plan is still there. Now, like you said, it's time for someone to continue the work that Deion has done. And what you see a lot of now is the backlash. You see a lot of the backbiting kind of thing that's going on, but no one has said anything about picking up the mantle and running with it.
That's good.
In the fight that he's done. I mean, if you really sit down and look at it and what he's done in those 3 years, probably more than a lot have done in maybe 20 years at these HBCUs. Mm-hmm. You put out the stats already about all the things that were accomplished in the short amount of time that Deion Sanders was there. And listen, that says a lot.
Hold on, you talk about the stats. Let me go into the stats real quick, because I had to say, so with Deion Sanders going to JSU, there's been a $30 million to the city of Jackson, Mississippi, $9 million for their homecoming, $4 million for Boombox Classic. But this what blew my mind though, from a television and media standpoint.
Come on.
And Jay, you and I, we get this heavy because we're in this.
Right.
ESPN TV deal. $120 million over the next 10 years. 125 games aired throughout the 2022 season. College Game Day came to JSU, the only second time in history going to HBCU. You can't tell me somebody did not leverage their relationship to help build and to expose the school or the organization or the kids on a greater scale, so that they can get that NFL look. They can get that marketing and branding NIL look. Nate, from a coaching standpoint, from a coaching, I got to bring the coach in too, because think about this.
Hey, before you get in that, don't forget now, JSU was also on Good Morning America.
Wow.
Sure was.
So that's more national. And that was the band that got a lot of national attention on that day as well, too. So, I mean, like I said, he's brought a lot of attention to JSU, but not just JSU, just to the culture of our college, of a black of these colleges. So.
And I could understand that a lot of people could be upset because of the connectivity with the kids. And that's why I'm saying, like, for Nate as a head coach, like when you're dealing with the with the of course I know it's hard for Deion Sanders. What are you thinking?
At the end of the day, it comes with the territory. You know, right there, not them kids. He did something greater, bro. One thing I realized and I respect about Deion, prime time, it's crazy because I'm a Colorado fan now, just because he the coach.
Yeah.
But
hey, but we FSU at heart, baby.
Oh yeah, I'm still Florida State to the core though. But
let's go. Yeah. But he did something, man. One thing I do with my kids, and I realize a lot of parents don't understand. A lot of people that's not in the coaching, as you know, world don't understand, especially the good coaches. And I'm not talking about X's and O's. You know, like I think it was Eddie or one of you guys said it. You know, he brought these boys to be men and men to be gentlemen. But they gonna take that with them to a successful life. He went from bringing these boys dreams to just the NFL or the next level to life itself. They get to take that with them because the percentage is not high. The percentage is not high. So what he's doing is so much greater than the X's and O's. And that's what we only focused on. And it ain't about that. And what makes a person great? What makes the greats great? They have paved the way. He did his job.
Right.
He did his job. They giving him, it's like they trying to give him I've been saying this for about 3 days already. They trying to give him the Jesus responsibility. They looking at like he the Messiah.
Nah, you preaching, man.
You gotta say it again, Nate. They give him the what?
Responsibility. They looking at him like he the Messiah. The Lord is here.
Hey, I think what got him hot is when he said, "I'm coming."
Bro, yeah. And so it's the standard. And so it's crazy. And I'm not saying it because he's the top. His philosophy is the same as my philosophy. And it's not that I changed that way. It's literally how I grew up. It's the same philosophy. I had meetings with my parents to let them know, listen, I'm looking for consistency. I'm looking for discipline, character. I don't care. Man, I had some of my best players act up. I had some of my best players not come to practice, and they was looking to play in the game right away. No, because it's more than football.
Right.
When I see that, not only he paved the way in the HBCU, and let me tell you what also helped. Travis Hunter is in that historic aspect as well, because he was a 5-star that went to that's what changed everything. Yeah, Primetime did it, and he wanted to be coached. It wasn't even that he wanted to go to a school. He wanted to be coached by Coach Prime.
Right.
When Travis went, that changed the game.
Right.
That changed the game, bro. And so if you've seen a lot of them, it was another 5-star wide receiver that just decommitted from there because Prime went. But at the end of the day, whatever HBCU want, I don't know. I don't know what the people want. I just posted it on Facebook. What y'all want? What y'all want him to do? What y'all want from Brian? I said, y'all weird.
Bruh.
I understand what they want. It's bigger than that. And he has his philosophy and he's staying 10 toes down. And so even when I see his when he talked to those boys and where them boys were scared, where after he had that speech with them, where they didn't know what to say. And it's crazy. It's certain things that we focus on, and I seen what he was focused on. He was telling them to go in the portal, and it was only for the weak. He's talking to the weak. He wasn't talking to just anybody. He was talking to the weak because he built those boys to hold themselves accountable. That's how I coach. You got to make sure they hold themselves accountable. Those things that we fail to realize and that we need to teach our kids nowadays. Our parents getting weak.
But you know what, though? I like you said that. I like the fact that you said that because literally as you were talking, I caught this revelation that I think I think it's something in our community that we are not realizing as far as systems, right? We're teaching our children to attach ourselves emotionally to someone rather than teaching them how to attach themselves into a proper system that's guarantee them a futuristic wealth.
Right, that's good.
Financial, whether it's a financial situation, whether it's a relational situation, or whether it's a career situation. We're teaching them how to attach their dream to a concrete place rather than a system that is abstract that can help us to maneuver into a direction that can allow us to be greater than what we are today. And I think that's the problem that we're having in our community, that we are too emotionally involved into decisions that doesn't make sense for the future and the destiny God has for the place. It's the same thing as in scripture when we were dealing with the Israelites. They were stuck in Egypt and they did not want to move through the wilderness.
Right.
So go 40 years, 40 years to try to experience this promised land. And some had to die.
Yeah.
Because they still wanted to carry the same mentality. And that is what Coach Prime is doing. He is killing the systematic, mental, and emotional part of us as a Black culture and saying, wake up. Destiny.
That's it, though. That's it. He's making them honest. You gotta when we say it's a bigger picture, that's what we mean. A lot of people don't even know how to look to the extent of that. Because from a coaching aspect, we dealing with generations of kids, bro. And so it comes with the territory, but you said it best, bro. It's so much bigger. It's so much bigger than just the X's and O's. And this man is not only, and he's been very intentional with making sure he puts certain things online, bro.
But here it is too, Jay. Here it is too, Nate. Some people, and this is why I always say, like that 1%, what makes it successful is because when you are connected to God, we serve a God that created the universe.
Right.
Why would God hold you down into a community only?
Right.
Yes, some are assigned to a community, but then you have those generals who are global shifters, and it is those who get persecuted for those seasonal. I call it the Moses seasons.
Yes.
Where 1 minute you're here and God shift you here. Because that's why the people couldn't really trust Moses, because the way Moses couldn't move unless God told him to move.
Right.
Because God has the plan. So we're out here trying to be busy telling Coach Prime what he should do with his life, when Coach Prime is telling you his assignment is greater than what you're emotionally thinking about.
Right.
Good.
And that's the issue that many times I have with our culture is I call it racial hypocrisy. Right. Because we get to a point where we feel like he is obligated to stay at a HBCU. Who says? When many people are called to impact the world on a greater level. And that's what I was trying to get people to say. It's like, yo, he's done in 3 years what majority of these coaches couldn't do in 30 or 40 years. Right. He does not have an Eddie Robinson calling. No, he's not going to be at that one school for decades or what have you. No, he's called to do greater. Can you imagine what he's able to do now when he's at Colorado with more resources? This brother, even he's had coaches that were with him 16 plus years through this whole journey. And they were talking about how his salary could have been even more than the 5, but he negotiated contracts for them. This shows the heart of this man and how he's able to impact the society or even the coaching culture outside of just JSU or an HBCU. Think about the opportunities that now those coaches will have because they're going to get exposure that they never would have got even with Deion at JSU. Right. You got to look at the big picture, right?
Look at it spiritually. Let's look at it spiritually from this point of view. You got a leader in Deion Sanders who's always professing Christ in everything. And through this journey, you got men that are going through this journey with you that have taken less, have seen the struggle, but they're at a plateau where everything had to be in that faith walk. And so now what you've done is you've planted a seed into them in which they can plant the seed into the next person.
Right.
And I think these HBCUs don't understand is that in those 3 years, you've been on a national level of attention, of focus. You've been in the media ever since Deion has been there. And the sad thing about it is, it looks like we did not take advantage of the situation when we were in it. That was your opportunity to promote Southern, Alabama State. That was your opportunity to grasp hold to that. And I think you said it too, Ramsey. That was your opportunity to be a part of that Deion Sanders effect, to bring more light to the HBCUs and that community. So, man, that was the opportunity. And now, good or bad, we're going to find out. We're going to find out if we can sustain it while Deion is now going on.
Because, you know, here it is. I was saying this earlier at the barbershop. Everybody talks about Deion Sanders and his decision, right? Deion decided to go to HBCU for a reason. Because a lot of people who graduate from HBCUs making money, but have not committed to the organization at an HBCU. So Deion had to go do a job that was unfinished by other people.
Ooh, that's good.
So therefore, just because your daddy, your mama, and your uncle didn't invest like Deion did, you don't have the right to tell a man that he cannot commit into the elevation of his destiny.
Absolutely. Good. Absolutely.
And for me, I know a lot of people can be like, well, Ryan, what do you? I'm telling you this because you need to have a 360 view of a human being. Okay? Because at the end of the day, we are responsible. Because when Deion goes to the grave, God forbid, not early, but when he does go to the grave and he dies, he has to answer for every decision God placed in his gift. Because God has created us with gift and skills. And it is our responsibility with our free will to make the right decision according to the assignment God gives us that's going to help shift the world and that's going to help reflect God's kingdom. Now, I'm not saying that Deion Sanders is perfect. No one is perfect. But I'm telling you, when I had a chance to interview his daughter, Deandra, you can see what her father and what her father has literally invested in her. You know, and just talking to her behind the scenes. You don't know people. You only see people when you see them on camera.
Mm-hmm.
The real conversation is behind the camera. And that's what makes what I do. That's what I love. That's why I love what I do. Because it's not about being on camera. You see me, I am what you see right now. Nate would tell you, Commissioner Eddie would tell you, I'm no different than what you see right here. But the beautiful thing is those who's been given the platform at an early age, they have to live on two different sides. And I'm blessed to be able to see the other side of them when I'm having a conversation during the setup, you know? And you can tell that Deion Sanders, he puts 100,000%. I'll put that like that, 100,000% literally in everything that he does.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
We as a community, we have to rise up. And like Commissioner Eddie say, who's going to pick up the mantle now? Who's going to take this system and amplify it? Where are the investors at who graduated from HBCU? Are you still playing your I ain't even gonna say it. Where are the HBCU graduates who are making money now? Not to say some are not, because there are some people that are.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Those who kids are talking on social media and all that stuff about Deion Sanders. If your parents went to HBCU, have they invested? Have they been a booster of any of the organizations?
Mm-hmm.
Have they provided scholarships for any of the kids? Deion Sanders from Under Armour to calling friends to leverage off for uniforms.
Mm-hmm.
You know, to get the kids to games. American Airlines.
Right.
Like, you know, Shannon Sharp said it best. He broke it down to the T. You know, this is the time we need to fight for those who are rising up to build the community, not just in a systematic way, but in a system that we are able to create.
Yeah.
So that generational wealth in our decisions can last forever.
Yeah.
Because we're in 2022, people. We can't hold on to what was in the past.
No.
Right.
We have more access and we have the ability to do more now than we ever had.
Correct.
Absolutely.
I realize with this position I have, bro, you can't please everybody, big dog.
Sure.
You can't please everybody. One thing I realized about, you know, Prime and a lot of people, you know, even yourself, Ramses, and, you know, Eddie, you know, a lot of us, God gave us gifts that people just can't understand.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Y'all, you just spoke on, you know, Moses. He didn't even know what he had until, you know, God came, and he had to keep having his dreams. So, Prime just have a gift that nobody understands. So just like a hurricane coming, people don't they panic. What they did when the pandemic happened? They panicked. So they panicking right now because they don't even understand. They so caught up. That's why I say they giving him that Jesus responsibility. They put their whole focus on him, not understanding. You're right. Them coaches really should have. That's Coach Prime. I see what he's doing. Mm-hmm. Let me go sit down with him. That's how you really focus on the HBCUs, or really if you really cared about it. Don't the coaches come together, do the coaches clinic, whatever the case is.
Right.
I know we're going against each other, but how can we get it like this to all the others? Let's have a conversation. And so, a lot of coaches deal with egos, a lot of people deal with egos, but my main thing is saying is just, he has a gift that people just don't understand. And it is what it is.
And the other thing too, I was thinking earlier was the fact that a lot of people don't know maybe Deion was dealing with opposition at JSU. Maybe certain changes he wanted to make, they just couldn't make it happen.
Yeah, somebody else commented about that too, that was part of the reason.
Yeah, a lot of people forget that this is a business. It is an organization. Right. The same way he elevated, the same way they could have terminated him. So at the end of the day, it is a business. You have to, I'm an entrepreneur. I'm a business owner. I can't think emotionally.
Right.
Everything operates based off a plan, prayer, and faith. The plan, I write it down. I put the vision out there, okay? And then when I pray, I ask God to give me a strategic way of moving this vision He's given me. Mm-hmm. At the end of the day, you can't put emotions into business. It just doesn't work.
No.
The only person that would end up in debt emotionally is you.
Yep.
Absolutely.
That's why I like what Deion said. As far as it's either in this business you get elevated, you get terminated.
And that's the bottom line. And that's just reality of all college sports. You know what I'm saying? No matter which way it happens, those kids are going to be hurt, right? There's going to always be casualties. And I think that's what we miss, man. And even going back to what you were talking about, or actually all of us were talking about that mantle being passed. I likened it, or using the analogy of even even the civil rights movement, right? It was like the same thing. Everybody put everything into MLK. And then when Martin Luther King assassinated, nobody truly picked up the mantle and carried it on. That's why we're still dealing with the same issues that we were dealing with 30, 40, 50, 60 years ago, because nobody grabbed the mantle and said, you know what, let's continue on the legacy that MLK started, and so at some point we've got to do that. That was so powerful what you said about the coaches even doing things while Prime was there. Because guess what? The reality is many of them missed their window of opportunity.
Yes, absolutely.
Southern can't go to a lot of these sponsors now and say, hey, we want to do the same thing Prime is doing, right? Because he's gone. And they were like, well, you ain't got the cachet Prime got, right? But while he was there, he could have went to bat for them. He could have went to bat for them with American Airlines. He could have went to bat for them with some of these other sponsors that he brought in to JSU. But we get to a place where we are envious and jealous, and we miss the blessings that God has for us, right? Through even Prime or what have you. And so it's just crazy to me, man.
I like that, man. Comfortability and change only results negativity.
Yep.
And so, the thing I really got out of this, man, is the thing about paving the way and the greats. We now know it can be done.
Right. Absolutely. He proved the concept.
He proved it.
We now know it can be done. So even if he's not there, it still can be done.
Facts.
What are we really talking about right now?
But the problem is, it now becomes the accountability part of it. So what we're seeing now is from everybody that's coming at Deion, or whether it may be, is that, he just said it. He was, Deion was considered to be, to some people, the Messiah that came in and gave these HBCUs this big platform and everything like that. But now Deion is moving on, and now, it's oh, he didn't care anything about HBCUs, and he could have gave us a little bit more time. He could have did this. But it's like, I always see it like this when I look at people around me and certain things that I do, especially in my own business. When I look at it in this term, it's like I go out and do the hard work. I do what God has positioned me to do and everything like that. But there's a lot of people on the outside that have privy to what you do, but yet won't activate or do anything for themselves to get themselves to that level. They have a lot to say about what you do, but that accountability of doing it for yourself, even though the blueprint has already been laid, a lot of people will look at that blueprint, roll it up, put it to the side. And that's what I'm afraid is going to happen now, is that Deion has laid out the blueprint. Who's going to actually build upon that blueprint? Who's going to add to it? Who's going to put that addition onto it? Who's going to go for that? Man, listen, looking at what Deion did at JSU, from the coaching aspect, the sponsorship aspect, and the social media aspect of it, was something that was totally different, that has never been done.
Never.
And because of the changing of our culture anyway, he maximized what he did. And so that's why when you see JSU, they were so magnified over a bunch of the other HBCUs. It's because he maximized everything that he knew he could do to get that attention over to JSU, to bringing them 5 stars, to bringing them players that he brought in. He hit home where a lot of us didn't do it. And so, like you said, I'm afraid that a lot of them missed the mark. A lot of them are let this opportunity to get by, to be able to tap into it. I mean, every year they got these SWAC meetings with these coaches. They sit in this room. Every coach sits in the room. They sit in there with the presidents and everything, and all the ADs, and they go over what's going on. They had 3 years of Deion Sanders in these meetings. And I guarantee you, not one of them after these meetings came to Deion and talked to him, because that's what most coaches do anyway. On the other level, the Power 5 level, these guys talk about everything from schemes of football and all of that stuff. But on the HBCU level, they didn't. I can guarantee you, they didn't talk to Sanders about any of the stuff that was going on JSU to magnify to get to that level. And that's what you see. What you did see was a lot of animosity. And the biggest word I'm going to put here, and I'm going to leave it at that, is a lot of pride. Because a lot of pride is out there, that may be the downfall to this thing. So I'm hoping somebody, like I said, will take this mantle and keep this thing going and building off what Deion did. But like I said, I'm just afraid that a lot of them are just going to let it go by the wayside.
So as we get ready to end the show, Sideline Conversation, what words of encouragement, or what perspective could you share from a positive place to inspire those to look at this situation for Deion Sanders, but as a reflection in their lives? Let's start off with you, Nate, and then we'll go to Eddie, and then we'll end off with you, Jay.
Repeat the question, man. You're gonna start out with me.
I was saying, as far as as we get ready to end the show, what words of inspiration could you share with those about the Deion Sanders situation that they could reflect on to help change their perspective in their lives?
Whew. Man, just be open-minded, man. It's a lot of ways to look at it, man. And I know the media can really give us a tunnel vision of our expectation towards something, but a lot of times we just got to back up and really think for ourselves, man. Because if you really look at it, this whole conversation that we just had is really not talked about. It's not talked about. If you realize this conversation, we ain't talk about the X's and O's of football. You know what I'm saying? We ain't talk about too much of the HBCU part. We brought it up, but we talked about the bigger aspect of it. And so I just say look at the bigger aspect of, and it's hard for a lot of people to look at it, because of how far we get in life and stuff like that. But man, it's a bigger picture, so it's pretty much it.
What about you, Eddie?
Two words come to mind: persistent and consistent. Persistent and consistent. That was the one thing that I've took out of the whole Deion Sanders being there at Jackson State. How persistent he was, and doing the things that he did. But on that level of being persistent, he was consistent with it. You know, it even down to what he demanded from those players and how he held them accountable. Those are things that build character. And those kids are, even though Deion's gone, those who had an opportunity to be there and to witness it and to be a part of it, I guarantee you, it has affected their lives in a positive way more than in a negative way. If they looked at it as what it was, that character, integrity, all of that thing was built while he was there at Jackson State. So persistent and consistent. That's what those are my two words that I would give to everybody. You know, that's anything that you do. If you can do those things well and you strive for those things, successes will definitely show up at your door.
How about you, Jay?
Absolutely. I love what he said there. Actually, what both of them said. And I would echo the sentiments of that and kind of wrap it up with, we've got to be unified. You know, as a race, as a culture, as HBCUs, we have to come together and continue what Deion started. You know, I was just thinking while they were talking before, and I was like, you know what was the thing that the HBCUs were known for? It wasn't for football. It was for the bands. It was for the bands. People were coming to the games just to see the bands. But guess what? Deion has them talking about the football teams.
Come on.
Right? And so we want to continue on that. Those that have the millionaires and billionaires in the Black communities that can pour back into the HBCUs. Listen, let's come together, get behind these coaches, and let's continue on the path that Deion trailblazed as the JSU head coaches. So we want to do that. He's the first HBCU coach to ever be hired at a Power 5 conference or a Power 5 team, period, ever. And so he's still continually creating history, and we want to get behind that. Don't knock the man down. We want to kill the narrative that we never support our own. We just tear them down. We have a crap mentality. We want to kill that as a race, as a culture, and let's build up and get behind those that can effect change at these universities.
You guys heard it here on the Sideline Conversation. As Nate said, be open. Eddie said, be persistent, be consistent. And that all leads to what Jay has brought to the forefront of the Sideline Conversation, is learning how to live in unity, unifying our minds, unifying our thoughts, unifying our conversation towards the direction of coming together and really bringing change in our community, that we no longer shall live in the shadow of our emotional thoughts or live an emotional stage. It's time for us to really start making healthy decisions and creating the proper systems that's going to help create generational wealth, not just financially, but mentally. You know, I think this is what the Black community need. And I'm glad that Deion Sanders literally took this opportunity, because this is the conversation. It's uncomfortable things that happen in society that makes us start having uncomfortable conversation that changes our perspective on where we are. Are we a generation that's still asleep? Are we a culture that's still asleep? Are we a race that's still asleep? Everybody always say, yeah, our ancestors this or ancestors that. But what about you? If you had a chance to look at yourself in the mirror today, what about you? What have you, or who have you partnered with, or what investment have you made to build your community?
That's good.
Because stop trying to take one man and put your responsibility on him. Jesus did it all for us already. So there's no need for us to go back into time and try to relive a moment that we're not called to relive. You're alive today. You're a miracle today. And we have the opportunity to really change that by unifying together. So once again, thank you all so much for jumping on the Sideline Conversation on the Reflection Show. I truly appreciate each and every one of your thoughts, your perspective. I really enjoyed this conversation. I hope that person, the person who's watching right now, that this helped you to have a different perspective about what we say. Don't forget, this is our opinion. We hope that our opinion that we share is that you would be able to grab from and actually dissect and find the truth in it, because truth is constant and it's consistent. So therefore, we love you guys. I thank you guys so much for watching Sideline Conversations right here in the Mirror TV, The Reflection Show. And don't forget, your experience matters. Thank you so much for watching.